Welcome back to our channel, General Hospital family. Today is a beautiful day to dive deep into the heart of Port Charles. We always love sharing these moments with you, unpacking the drama, the heartbreak, and the suspense that keeps us coming back week after week. As a man who's been sitting in front of the television watching this incredible show for more years than I can count, I have to admit that the current tension between Sonny and Jason is tearing me apart. Seeing Sonny call Jason in for a private meeting to hand down a brand new mission feels like watching a slow-motion train wreck that I am utterly powerless to stop. For decades, I have watched these two men operate as a single, unstoppable unit, communicating with mere glances and unspoken understandings. But now, the air between them is thick with an uncomfortable hesitation that makes my stomach tie itself into agonizing knots. I cannot help but evaluate this situation as the beginning of a profound tragedy, a fracturing of a brotherhood that I honestly believe could withstand any storm Port Charles could throw at it. What truly moves me to my core, however, is the beautiful, heartbreaking reason behind Jason's hesitation. Jason is desperately yearning to finally focus on his son, Danny Morgan, and to step up as the real present father that the boy so desperately needs and deserves. As a father myself, I feel a deep, overwhelming wave of pride and empathy for Jason in this moment. I have watched him sacrifice his own happiness, his relationships, and his very soul for the sake of the organization, but seeing him look at his life and choose his child over the violence is incredibly powerful. It makes me wonder, how many years has Jason spent staring into the dark, wishing he could just walk in the light and hold his son's hand without constantly looking over his shoulder for the next threat? This profound shift in Jason's priorities brings us to a terrifying crossroads, and my anxiety as a viewer is currently through the roof. The possibility that Jason will look Sonny in the eye and flatly refuse to continue serving the organization is growing larger by the minute. I firmly believe that Jason is finally realizing that he cannot be a ruthless enforcer by night and a gentle, guiding father by day. The two worlds are fundamentally incompatible, and the darkness will always eventually bleed into the light. This evaluation of Jason's internal war leaves me breathless, because walking away from the mob is never as simple as just handing in a resignation letter, especially not when your boss is Sonny Corinthos. Adding a massive layer of toxic fuel to this already blazing fire is the presence of Rick Lansing, a man who consistently makes my blood boil every single time he slithers onto the screen. Jason is beginning to severely clash with Rick, and I am sitting on my couch cheering Jason on because he is absolutely right to withhold every ounce of his trust. I have watched Rick manipulate, scheme, and betray for years, and my personal opinion is that he is nothing more than a dangerous snake hiding in the tall grass, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. It deeply frustrates me to see Jason, a man whose instincts have kept Sonny alive for decades, being forced to navigate around Rick's deceitful presence within Sonny's inner circle. What absolutely baffles and worries me is Sonny's current state of mind regarding this entire toxic dynamic. Sonny seems to have this incredible, inexplicable blind spot when it comes to Rick, choosing to place his trust in a man with a history of betrayal rather than listening to the loyal brother who has taken actual bullets for him. I feel a profound sense of sadness for Sonny because I evaluate his reliance on Rick as a symptom of deep isolation and paranoia. It is as if Sonny is slowly building a fortress around himself, but he is accidentally locking the loyal soldiers out and inviting the traitors inside. How can Sonny not see that pushing Jason away while pulling Rick closer is a recipe for absolute disaster? Meanwhile, Sonny is utterly consumed by his dark, relentless desire to completely and utterly destroy Sidwell, and this obsession is casting a terrifying shadow over everything else. I watch Sonny's eyes darken with that familiar, vengeful intensity, and I feel a cold chill run down my spine, because a desperate, vengeance-driven Sonny is a danger to himself and everyone he loves. I predict that this tunnel vision regarding Sidwell is going to blind Sonny to the very real, immediate threats brewing right in his own backyard. The sheer magnitude of the destruction Sonny is planning for Sidwell proves that we are hurtling toward one of the biggest, most devastating shocks this show has delivered in years, and I am genuinely frightened for the collateral damage that will inevitably follow. As if the situation with Sidwell was not explosive enough, the revelation that Jason has uncovered hard evidence regarding Tristan's new actions is the kind of twist that genuinely makes me gasp out loud. Tristan is quietly making moves in the shadows, and Jason is the only one holding the puzzle pieces that show the horrifying complete picture. My heart races just thinking about the burden Jason is carrying right now, knowing that this evidence proves Tristan is about to ignite a storyline explosion that will rock Port Charles to its very foundations. I evaluate this new development as the ultimate ticking time bomb, and the suspense of waiting for that bomb to go off is almost too much for this old fan to bear. The sheer weight of this evidence puts Jason in an impossibly cruel dilemma, and my heart aches for the terrible choices he is being forced to make. He wants nothing more than to walk away, to go home to Danny and leave the violence behind, but he knows that ignoring Tristan's impending attack could lead to catastrophic consequences for the people he still cares about. Will Jason use this evidence to protect Sonny one last time, or will he hand it over to the authorities and finally wash his hands of the entire criminal underworld? This question keeps me up at night, because I know that whatever Jason decides, it is going to cost him a piece of his soul. It seems highly likely to me that Jason, driven by that stubborn, deeply ingrained sense of loyalty that has defined his entire adult life, might agree to one final, dangerous request from Sonny. Whenever a character in Port Charles agrees to one last job, I feel a heavy, suffocating blanket of dread settle over me, because we all know that the final mission is always the one that demands the highest, most agonizing price. I predict that if Jason takes on this final task to help Sonny neutralize the threats of Sidwell and Tristan, he will be walking directly into a bloodbath that will test every single limit he has left. It is a tragic, beautiful testament to Jason's character that he would risk his own hard-won freedom to ensure his former brother's safety one last time. However, regardless of whether he takes this one last mission or not, the writing is clearly on the wall, and the certainty that Jason is going to permanently leave Sonny's organization feels as heavy and solid as a tombstone. As a longtime viewer, accepting this reality brings tears to my eyes. It truly feels like I am witnessing the painful, inevitable end of a legendary era that defined my television viewing for decades. I evaluate Jason's impending departure not just as a career change, but as a monumental shift in the very fabric of Port Charles, a seismic event that will alter the balance of power forever. I am incredibly proud of Jason for finally choosing Danny and choosing life, but saying goodbye to the enforcer we have known for so long is going to be a deeply emotional, grieving process for all of us watching at home. When Jason finally walks out that door for good, the damage and the loss that Sonny will experience are going to be absolutely catastrophic. I look at Sonny now, already so volatile and heavily reliant on the wrong people like Rick, and I honestly do not know how he is going to survive without Jason acting as his shield, his enforcer, and his moral anchor. My prediction is that Jason's departure will trigger a massive, uncontrollable downward spiral for Sonny, leaving his empire incredibly vulnerable to the vultures waiting in the shadows. Can Sonny Corinthos truly maintain his grip on his territory, and more importantly, on his own sanity, when the only man who ever truly understood the darkness inside him is no longer standing by his side? As we brace ourselves for the emotional turbulence ahead, I find myself holding my breath, completely captivated by the raw human vulnerability shining through these tough, hardened characters. We are watching a father fight for his son's future, a mob boss blindly marching toward his own ruin, and a criminal empire teetering on the absolute brink of total collapse. I know that you, my fellow viewers, feel this intense emotional weight just as deeply as I do, and I am so grateful that we can share these incredible, heart-stopping moments together. The days ahead in Port Charles are going to be dark, dangerous, and deeply moving, and I cannot wait to see how our beloved characters navigate the devastating storms that are about to break.